She wakes up alone, makes her coffee in silence, and feels more at peace than most people in relationships. But why? What's the real story behind women who choose to live without a man? More and more women are choosing to live alone, not as a last resort, but as a conscious act of freedom. And while the world whispers judgment, a deeper truth emerges. A truth Erich Fromm understood decades ago, that love, real love, begins with solitude. Picture her. She's not bitter, she's not broken, she's not waiting for someone to save her. She's simply living. Alone, yes, but not lonely. There's a difference. This woman could be anywhere, in a busy New York apartment or a quiet home in rural France. She wakes up when she wants, dresses for herself, reads in silence, and goes to bed without waiting for anyone to come home. And she's okay with that. More than okay, she's thriving. But in the eyes of many, she's a mystery. Or worse, a threat. Because society still doesn't know what to do with a woman who chooses herself. We've been told a story for centuries, that a woman without a man is incomplete. That her worth is tied to being chosen, claimed, and kept. That love is the finish line. That partnership is the prize. But what if that's not the whole story? The psychologist and philosopher Erich Fromm wrote something powerful in The Art of Loving. Love is possible only if two persons communicate with each other from the center of their existence. In other words, love doesn't happen between two half people looking to be made whole. It happens between two whole people who don't need each other, but choose each other. Let that sink in, because what Fromm is really saying is this: solitude isn't the enemy of love. It's the foundation of it, and that's what these women have discovered. They've stopped chasing completion through someone else. They've stopped mistaking attention for affection. They've stopped believing that partnership is the only path to fulfillment. Instead, they've turned inward, and in that quiet space, they've found something revolutionary: peace. This doesn't mean they've given up on love. It means they're no longer willing to settle for less than love. They're done with roles, with expectations, with the illusion that security equals connection. Fromm believed that most people approach love like a business deal. They trade looks for stability, charm for money, safety for sacrifice. But he warned, that's not love. That's dependency. And dependency always comes with a hidden cost: the loss of self. That's what many of these women are refusing to pay. They're not rejecting men. They're rejecting the idea that their lives must orbit around one. They're rejecting the narrative that partnership is the peak of a woman's purpose. They are not alone because they failed to find someone. They are alone because they finally found themselves. The courage to be alone. A quiet revolution. You see, when a man chooses to live alone, he's often seen as independent, focused, ambitious. But when a woman chooses the same path, the narrative changes. She's labeled lonely, unlovable, or worse, selfish. Because in the traditional story we've all been fed, a woman's identity is relational. She's a daughter, a wife, a mother, always belonging to someone. But what happens when she refuses to belong to anyone but herself? What happens when she says, "No, I don't need someone to complete me. I'm already whole"? That's when the discomfort begins. Not for her, but for the people watching her. Friends ask if she's okay. Family wonders what went wrong. Strangers feel entitled to offer advice, like, "Don't worry, you'll find someone eventually." As if being found is the goal. As if being alone is a condition to be cured. But this woman doesn't feel lost. She feels free. Because she's no longer performing, no longer shrinking, no longer shaping herself into what someone else might want. Instead, she's asking, what do I want? What makes me feel alive? Who am I when no one is watching? These aren't easy questions. Most people avoid them their entire lives. They jump from relationship to relationship, job to job, city to city. Anything to avoid sitting in silence with themselves. Because silence, at first, feels like emptiness. But in truth, it's just space. The kind of space needed to grow something real. And that's exactly what women like her are doing. They're planting something new. A way of living that isn't defined by external validation. They're not waiting for a ring, or a child, or a partner to feel like they matter. They're not chasing someone to post about on Instagram or a relationship status to announce to the world. They're learning how to exist, fully, unapologetically, and yes, alone. Erich Fromm warned us about this dependency trap. He wrote that most people confuse falling in love with standing in love. Falling is passive. It happens to you. You lose yourself in it. But standing in love, that's conscious. That's grounded. That's built on two people who have done their own inner work. And how do you do that work? You do it in solitude. You sit with your discomfort. You face your fears. You get real with your wounds. You begin to hear your own voice again. The one that was drowned out by noise, by people-pleasing, by expectations. So when a woman chooses to live alone, she's not just stepping away from men. She's stepping away from distraction, from tradition, from the endless cycle of being everything for everyone, except herself. She's reclaiming her time, her energy, her identity, and that scares people. Why? Because a woman who doesn't need anything from anyone is a woman who can't be controlled. She's not waiting to be saved. She's not willing to be owned. She's not afraid of her own company. That kind of woman is powerful, and society has never known what to do with powerful women who don't apologize for their choices. Her story isn't tragic. It's liberated. There's a woman in her 40s. Let's call her Emily. She spent most of her 20s and 30s in long-term relationships. Some were good, some were exhausting. But one day, after her third breakup in a decade, something inside her shifted. She moved into a small studio apartment, alone. No roommate, no partner, just her. At first, the silence was deafening. No one to come home to, no one to ask about her day, no one to hold her at night. But slowly, the silence began to soften. It turned into peace. She started sleeping better, eating better, reading again, painting again, feeling like herself, not the version of herself someone else wanted. Her friends called it a healing phase. Her mother called it a season. But for Emily, it was freedom. She realized she didn't miss having someone. She missed herself. And now that she had herself back, she wasn't willing to lose that again. Not for anyone. Then there's Jasmine, 32, who always thought she'd be married by now. She grew up watching every woman in her family sacrifice themselves for love. Her aunt gave up a career. Her cousin gave up her independence. Her mother gave up her dreams. And all of them were still unhappy. So Jasmine did something different. She stopped dating. Not because she couldn't find someone, but because she didn't want to lose herself in the process of finding someone. Instead, she traveled solo. She started a business. She bought a house. Alone. People called her intimidating. Men told her she was too much. Relatives whispered that she was wasting her best years. But Jasmine wasn't wasting anything. She was living. On her own terms, with her own timeline, and most importantly, with her own identity intact. Erich Fromm would say this is the first step toward real love. Not the needy, addictive kind of love that demands, consumes, or erases, but love as an expression of fullness. He wrote, "Mature love says, I need you because I love you. Immature love says, I love you because I need you." Most of us have only known the second kind. That desperate kind. The kind that clings, that fears abandonment, that turns love into a transaction. But women like Emily and Jasmine, and millions more, are choosing to wait for the first kind, or to simply live without it if it never comes. And this choice isn't cold. It's not about superiority or pride. It's about dignity. The dignity of not begging to be seen. The dignity of not settling for half love. The dignity of not needing permission to exist. And yet, even with all this clarity, the world still struggles to accept women like them. Because their lives don't fit into neat little boxes. They aren't wives. They aren't mothers. They aren't someone's other half. They are whole and visible and unapologetic. And to a society that still profits from women being small, being unsure, being dependent, that wholeness is a quiet rebellion. A woman living alone without a man isn't a tragedy. She's not a cautionary tale. She's not just waiting. She's not missing out. She's choosing herself deeply, consciously, and without shame. And maybe, just maybe, that's the kind of love story we need to tell more often. Solitude is not the absence of love. It's the presence of self. Let's be honest. We live in a world that fears solitude. We fill every moment with noise. We scroll, we swipe. We surround ourselves with people, even when we feel empty inside. Because being alone forces us to face ourselves. And for most people, that's terrifying. But women who choose to live alone, who choose solitude over codependency, they've walked through that fire. They've sat with the silence, and they've made peace with it. Not just peace, they've made meaning. Because as Fromm wrote, to be able to love, one must be able to love oneself. And to love oneself, one must be able to be alone. That's the truth no one wants to hear. Solitude isn't loneliness. It's not bitterness. It's not an empty house or a quiet bed. It's a mirror. And for these women, it's where they've learned to see themselves clearly, not through someone else's eyes, not filtered by a relationship, but real, raw, whole. And that kind of clarity changes everything. It changes how you walk through the world. It changes what you accept. It changes how, and if, you love again. Because now, love becomes a choice, not a need. Here's what most people don't realize. These women aren't against relationships. Many of them still hope for connection. Some are even open to love again. But they are done with sacrificing their peace just to avoid being alone. They are done with being someone's emotional caretaker while no one checks in on them. They are done with being told they're too much or too independent, as if that's a flaw. They are done with the outdated idea that their worth is measured by a ring, a title, or someone else's presence in their life. And if that makes people uncomfortable, so be it. Because discomfort is where growth begins. Think about it. What if the reason so many relationships feel empty is because we've never learned how to be full on our own? What if most people are chasing love not from a place of wholeness, but from a place of hunger? Fromm believed that modern society had corrupted love, that we had turned it into a market where people are products, always trying to be more desirable, more valuable, more acceptable. But true love, he said, can only exist between people who don't need each other to survive, but choose each other to grow. And to reach that place, you have to be willing to walk through solitude. You have to build a life so complete, so aligned with who you are, that any relationship that enters it must add, not complete, not define, not rescue, but enhance. This is the hidden strength of women who live alone. They are not waiting. They are not lacking. They are not in pause mode. They are living deeply, intentionally, and with a level of self-awareness that many never reach. They are their own home, their own anchor, their own soft place to land. And because of that, they are more ready for real love, if it comes, than anyone still clinging to the fantasy that another person will fix what's broken inside. The kind of love that starts with you. Close your eyes for a second. Think about the most peaceful moment you've ever had. That 1 second where you felt no pressure to be anything but yourself. No mask, no performance, no expectations. Just you and peace. That's what solitude offers, when it's chosen. And for so many women, this isn't just an escape from toxic relationships. It's an escape from a lifetime of self-erasure. Because for generations, women have been taught to disappear for love, to become smaller, more agreeable, less loud, less ambitious, less them, to pour and pour and pour into others until there's nothing left for themselves. But solitude rewrites that story. It teaches you how to pour into yourself first. It teaches you that being alone isn't the end of something. It's the beginning of everything you were too distracted to feel. Your dreams, your voice, your needs, your rhythm. You begin to feel it all again. And maybe, for the first time in your life, you feel seen, not by a partner, but by you. That's revolutionary, because when a woman stops looking outward for validation, when she stops needing someone to make her feel chosen, she becomes unshakable. Not because she's built walls, but because she's built a home inside herself. Let's go even deeper. What if we redefined love? What if love wasn't about finding someone to fill your gaps, but about sharing your fullness? What if love wasn't about being rescued, but about being witnessed in your entirety? Fromm believed that love was an art, something to be practiced, cultivated, and mastered. And solitude, he said, was the studio. It's where you learn patience, where you learn to listen, where you confront your shadows and hold them without shame, so that when love does arrive, if it ever does, you don't grab it with desperation. You welcome it with open hands, open eyes, and an open heart that's already full. This is the secret that so many miss. Love begins long before the other person arrives. It begins with how you treat yourself. It begins with how you speak to yourself when no one's around. It begins with the life you build, not for someone else to enter, but for yourself to thrive in. And that's what these women have discovered. They're not alone because they've failed at love. They're alone because they've refused to fail themselves ever again. She didn't choose loneliness, she chose herself. So if you're watching this and you've ever felt like maybe something's wrong with you because you're still single, or you like your solitude a little too much, let this be your reminder. There is nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not missing out. You are becoming. You are evolving. You are listening to the voice that lives beneath the noise, the one that says, "This is who I really am." And that voice? That's your home. And hey, if you've been feeling stuck in emotional loops, struggling with inner conflict, or sensing there's a part of you you've never fully understood, you're not alone in that. This guide we've put together dives deep into exactly that. It'll help you understand why certain patterns keep repeating, face the hidden parts of yourself you've been avoiding, begin real emotional healing and self-integration, reconnect with your true, undiluted self. If any of that speaks to something you've been quietly carrying, check the first pinned comment under this video. It might be exactly what your soul has been needing. No pressure, no rush, just when you're ready. And if this message gave you a little more peace, or helped you feel a little less alone in your choices, then share it. Not for views, not for numbers, but because someone else out there might need to hear this too. And if you want to keep walking this path with us, hit subscribe and stay close. There are more stories like this, more truths like this, more moments of stillness, courage, and connection waiting for you. You're not alone here. Not really. So wherever you are, whether you're waking up alone in your apartment, sitting quietly with your coffee, or just starting to find your own rhythm again, know this: you are not unfinished. You are not lacking. You are not waiting. You are whole. And the love that grows from wholeness, that's the kind that never leaves. Take care of yourself. And until next time, keep choosing you.